Hello, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to do my August wrap up and my September TBR. So for the month of August, I read 7 books. Most were, actually 3 of them were short stories and the rest were good. I kind of went more into like a more contemporary romance area this month. That's the mood I was in, and that's what I gravitated to. And so let's start with the first book. So the first book I read was 32 Candles by Ernesta Carter. I absolutely loved this book. This book was so funny and had me laughing in public loud. Like I was hollering at certain parts because it was so funny to me. So this is what you call a coming of age story of a young girl that was being bullied. Her mom was very abusive, and one day she just basically took her joy away from her, so she stopped talking. So for a couple of years she never spoke. So she went through all the way to high school, and where she met a guy who she just instantly fell for. However, being the ugly duckling, no one paid attention to her until his sister noticed her and made her life a living hell. So something happened where she ran away, and for 16 years she lived this life that was just like so interesting. She made some really interesting people, and the story unfolded where our past came back to haunt her. And it was done in a way where I laughed. I felt sorry for her at times, but at times I was like, hell yeah, girl, kick some ass. Because she was just so witty with her mouth, and she grew into an adult that was not afraid. And that's the part I really enjoy about this story, where the ugly duckling kind of won, and got her life together, and influenced other people as well. So it also became an inspirational story to me, because there's some aspect of it, finding your atonement, and learn to forgive and heal. And I love this story. This is definitely a 5-star read, and I highly recommend it to anybody. The next book I read was called Beautiful Mistake by Vi Keelan. Now, I love Vi Keelan. I've read quite a few of her books because she is that person that knows to write a romance novel with erotica content, but not in the sleazy way. It's done really nice, and this is a story about a young girl. She is in grad school and working, and she has a friend who basically said this guy she dated did her wrong. So she met this other guy she thought was the guy by mistake, and when he recognized her, for some reason he recognized her, and he said, "Do I know you?" Of course, she cursed him out because she thought he was trying to hit on her because of what our friend told her. So a few days later, before that she realized he wasn't the guy, but she wasn't going to apologize. So a few days later, she walked into what was going to be her professor, because she had a TA position. It just so happened that the professor she's a TA for is the guy she cursed out. So you can imagine how that story unfolds. Some of it's a little predictable, but some of it was actually really interesting, how somehow along the line there were some things about both their pasts that somewhat linked them. And I love the story. It was a sweet story. It had me smiling, and that feel-good book. So I highly recommend this as well. I gave this one a 4-star. The next book I read was Benti by Nidhi Orafor. Sorry guys, I cannot pronounce her name right. But anyway, this is a sci-fi, and this one of course won some award. So this is a story about a young girl who is come from a community where they don't believe in leaving the community or exploring. They somewhat stay there, and what ended up happening, she wanted to go to this university that is known as like a gifted area where a lot of students go to, but she has to leave her home in order to go there. Of course, her family wouldn't approve, her people wouldn't approve, but she went anyway. She got on the ship to go to the university, and some aliens got on there, slaughtered everybody, and she survived. and she found out some things about that from her culture that helped her survive, that she wasn't aware of. So this story is very interesting. It's short because it is actually a novella, but it's a series now. So I literally was very into this, and I really want to continue with the series. The next book I read was Disaster in Dating by Danielle Allen. Now this book is like, I felt it was going to be my story, because a single woman constantly dating, trying to date, and the things that's happening. So when I read this book, I was smiling because I was like, yeah, this book is so relatable. So this is a story about a young girl who was in a relationship for 10 years. And during that relationship, towards the end of the relationship, there was some infidelity and the relationship ended. So needless to say, she was hurt and she healed. She took time to heal. And that's another thing I like about the story. She took time to heal. Then when she decided she wanted to go in the dating world, being out of the dating scene for so many years, that, her friends decided that maybe she should try online dating. So what comes with online dating, the good, bad, and ugly. And this story goes on her dates and the disaster and the things that happen. And I literally laughed. I really had the face like, yeah, that really does happen. And I enjoyed. But of course, this is a romance novel. So she met two guys that were of interest. And of course, I personally had one guy that I really liked. So I'm reading the story and I was only interested in that one guy. So every time they started talking about the other guy, I was just like, okay, how many pages I'm going to have to go through, because I just didn't feel him. It was just no. Then the author decided, I'm going to end the story now and have two alternative endings. So I had to pick up two short stories with alternative endings of what I think was going to happen. So naturally, I gravitated to the book of the guy that I thought was better for her. So the one they have was a brink of disaster. This one and that one. Yeah. So why we had two different books, but it is what it is. It kind of, to me, brought the book down somewhat, because it was like getting to that 4-star and then it just bumped it down to 3, because it wasn't necessary. But that's the route that the author decided to take, to be creative. I get it. I just did not feel it. So yeah. So the last book I read was actually the last book that I was looking forward to the whole year. So basically all the books I wanted to read that I was more excited about this year, I've read now. So that was Stay With Me by Ayabami Adebayo. Let's hope I pronounced that right. These names. But this story I read when I recently went to Aruba. I went to Aruba and I packed my Kindle and one physical book. And this book actually didn't come out till I was already there, but I had pre-ordered it. So it showed up on my Kindle and I was excited. 2 days on the beach, read this story, and I had moments where I was just like, oh, and then moments I was just like trying not to cry on the beach, because it was just so heart-wrenching. It was just like I literally felt for the character. I was like I was rooting for the marriage and everything, but anyway, this is a story about a young couple who met in college. There's a series of events that happened that kind of drew them close together. They decided to marry early, and over the years they couldn't conceive a child. So this story happened in Africa, Nigeria. So cultural influence said you have to have a child, and if your wife can't have a child, you're allowed to have other wives. So of course there's a second wife introduced, and of course the main character, she was just not a fan. She came from that kind of marriage setup where she had father had multiple wives, and she knew she didn't want it for herself. So there was a struggle in that, and and which caused her to do desperate things, in order, to have a child. And it brought the family joy. then there's pain, and the story is just a lot of heartbreak, but you know, and bad decisions too in the story for both part of the couple. I found that in the story I didn't have a side. I wanted to pick a side, but I just didn't have a side because I somewhat felt sympathy for the husband, even though I probably shouldn't, because there's things that he's done that I'm like, oh my God, that is just so wrong. But for some reason I did, and I think that's why the story was just such a good story for me, because I got to understand both character and why they made the decision they made, and the end is just like, and the end, the book is worth the hype, worth all the recognition that it got. It is definitely a 5-star for me, and I highly recommend this one. So that is it when it comes to all the books. And so now I'll talk about the books that I plan on reading in September. As you can see on my TBR for August, I only read one book off the TBR. I kind of suck on that because I just was in the mood for more contemporary romance. But this month I think I'm gonna mix it up more for September. And so right now I'm gonna read the second book in the Binti series, and this is Home. This is gonna be a quick read for me, but I'm gonna finish this one. The third one doesn't come out I think till January. Hope I can get the arc, but I'm gonna read the second one. Then I did start Jintu. I think that's the proper pronunciation, but I didn't get that far, as you can see. So, but I'm gonna continue this, and this one is a good book. I just was not in a mood quite to get into stuff like this, but it's a good book. Then I'm also gonna continue too, and with Lincoln in the Bardo, and I've started this not much, maybe 30 pages in, not that much, but I did started this one, so I'm gonna continue that. Then I am going to read Every Last Lie by Mary Kubica. So this book I know is thriller, so I should be able to get through her story because I've read her books before. They're pretty quick reads. They're not as boring and dragged out like some, crime and mysteries are. And then I have one graphic novel that I want to finish, and that's Paper Girls. So I'm hoping to get through this to and get to the other one. So I think I got 2 volumes. So of course, usually these are not all. Pretty sure I'm going to get a little bit of contemporary romance in the midst of it, but that's the books that I'm going to read right now. So got to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I do have a Aruba vlog coming up, where I vlog my trip in Aruba. It's gonna be a little bit long, but I'm sure you're gonna love it. So yeah, sorry guys, neighbors are out here. So anyway, have a nice day, and thanks for watching.